Welcome to Perspectives in Peds, or PIP for short, your go-to podcast for insights into paediatric practice. From clinical approaches and emerging research to the everyday wins and challenges, we bring you OT perspectives that inform, inspire and spark conversation. Hello, Emily. Hello,
Hi,
Gabs.
Hey.
Welcome back to PIP.
Yay.
Thanks for joining me today. We are talking, is allied health too nice?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a topic where I'm going to kind of give the overall theme at the start because I think it helps listeners know what they're in for a little bit more. But the theme of how we as clinicians may tend to put niceness before outcomes. And we're going to kind of dive into how we might differentiate niceness from kindness as well as clinicians.
I think that's a really good point to start with.
Yeah.
Because I think those two can sound super interchangeable, but
Absolutely.
I definitely don't think
And
they
I
are.
want to be nice. Like
Yeah.
I want to be a nice guy.
I love that you guys are nice.
I'm
Don't
actually
stop
nice
being nice.
and kind.
Absolutely. But I might even start there. So when we're talking about being too nice in this context, what do we actually mean?
I feel like being nice is, being friendly, being likable, all of those kind of traits. Whereas when we think about being kind in this context, I'm thinking more around, for the sake of what is best for the outcomes for this child and family.
Yeah.
Yeah, where like nice potentially prioritizes. I love that you said likable. I think nice prioritizes likable. And likable in therapy, in my opinion, is just the like superficial, scratchy stuff at the start. At the start.
Yeah. And I think when you're working with kids as well, there's this underlying need for kids to somewhat enjoy coming to therapy because they're working on things that are tricky for them and that kind of thing. And so we want to be nice to kids as well.
We should be nice to kids.
Absolutely.
Actually, let it be known on the record
that is not our recommendation.
You should be nice to kids.
We should be nice to everyone.
Be nice to everyone.
Absolutely.
Except for your co-hosts. Be mean to your co-hosts. Those are the rules, and we don't make the rules.
But kindness does not equal niceness.
No.
And I guess when we're thinking about that, we're kind of thinking more around that in our role, sometimes it does require us to have hard conversations or deliver news that may not necessarily be easy or comfortable or, all of the above for families to hear. And so sometimes as clinicians, if we are prioritizing niceness in this scenario, it might stop us from having some of those conversations. And we will definitely be going into that. But for the purpose of this episode, kindness and niceness are not synonymous.
No, they're
Correct.
So I'd love to know from a more like personal level from both of you, can you think of a moment in your clinician career where you have realised that being nice might actually be getting in the way of doing good work with a family?
Yeah. I think when you skirt around things like financial situations or when you potentially see families asking for therapy to look a certain way when you believe therapeutically it should look a different way.
Yeah.
But you avoid those conversations or you avoid that that tough moment with the family just so that you can stay, nice or likable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You, Em?
I think in a similar nature, withholding information.
Yeah. That's a good one.
For example, if there are things you have noticed about a child or as a family, as a family dynamic, and withholding some of that information when you think that may actually add really important information to the context and around the goals, that is doing the family a disservice and that can be unkind.
Yeah. I often think as well, like coming back to your point about more like money and financial aspect of therapy as well, when particularly as OTs, we're not necessarily ones who diagnose, but we do perhaps see things in kids that may indicate going down a diagnostic path might be helpful. And sometimes that will open doors to funding options for
Yeah.
therapy and that kind of thing, but it can be uncomfortable to bring up that conversation if the family maybe isn't aware of it or hasn't
Yeah.
had thoughts as
Yeah.
well.
For sure. And I find particularly the financial things, the family's usually thinking about it. If it's going to be a problem, it's
Yeah.
on their mind.
Yep.
And it comes up, one way or the other. So
Yeah.
I think it's nice to avoid it, but it's not kind,
Yeah.
and it snowballs.
Do you think that there's anybody when we think of clinicians that may be more vulnerable to this? Like to me, I think perhaps like new grads or
Yeah.
people that are newer to working with families may be more vulnerable. And why do you think that might be?
I would, definitely say thinking, of myself as a new grad, when those tricky conversations that don't feel nice are super limited, like those first couple of times bringing those things up, oh my goodness, like absolutely terrifying. And I probably put them off.
Yeah.
Not probably, I know I put them off for longer than I probably should have in retrospect or what I would do now.
For sure. I think when you're a new grad, you have so much that you feel like you have to like live up to as someone who's just freshly hired.
Yeah.
That being vulnerable enough to potentially have a conversation, and Brene talks about vulnerability as a way of like stepping in, knowing that it maybe will go wrong or will go wrong at some point. Conversations like the financials and when parents aren't maybe completing homework and things like that, it just, there's a potential that it won't go well, and I think new graduates are so busy thinking about appearing like a fantastic, flawless, perfect therapist that having a conversation that could go badly is really hard.
Yeah. And we've also spoken in previous episodes about feedback and that kind of thing. So how those more difficult conversations or feedback are received as well may cloud the parent or the caregiver's kind of perception of that person, because if they're not ready to hear it, they might be like, oh, I don't like that therapist.
Sure.
Yeah.
Versus that therapist was really honest with me and I really appreciate that. But I think as well, if we look at new grads or even just generally speaking, when we're always looking for satisfaction in our service and that kind of thing. And on the surface, it's easier to get a satisfied family if you're nice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think a big distinction to make is that you can still open up the conversation without having expectations of how the family will engage in it. That is still kind.
Yeah. What do you think makes difficult conversations so hard to have in pediatric practice? And then I guess what does it potentially cost families if we keep putting them off?
I think part of it can be, I guess I'm thinking of some particular families and children that I've worked with when maybe I might have also put on them that I feel that they're coming in with certain goals or certain expectations, or perhaps during the intake they've spoken about previous allied health that they've engaged in and been dissatisfied with, and kind of taking that on and taking that a bit personally when perhaps I shouldn't have. And then that can kind of cloud, I guess, what my clinical judgment might be of actually like what do I recommend regardless in this best case scenario. And I guess leaning on the evidence, what do I actually know will be most helpful for this child and this family? But when I kind of take that on as a bit of a reflection on me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a mixture of, because I do think those conversations are hard, but a big part of it is that it is so easy to not have them. You know what I mean? It's
easier to do therapy without those conversations.
And yes, they are really hard, but gosh, I could just come in and not talk about it, and we can come in and just do the thing, and the family will leave happy. And the kid might even leave smiling, and even that might not be what we needed in that session.
Yeah.
I think it's just so easy. Another big part of it that makes it hard is that it takes a lot of work to like practice and rehearse, and you stumble through it the first 10 times. But if you don't stumble through it, you actually never get there in the first place. I think often as therapists, we stop in those 5 stumble moments and think, well, I'm never doing this again. It's not worth it.
Yeah. Or the one time it's received quite poorly, because chances are there is going to be a time when it doesn't go well, because that's working with people, and then that does happen and you psych yourself up and it all goes not how you anticipated, and then to do it again that next time is really, really challenging and a big barrier.
And our job isn't to be nice, right?
Yeah.
So if we keep putting them off, how potentially can that impact families?
I think when we keep putting them off, when we do eventually have them, it's almost a bit of a shock to the family sometimes, of like, wait a minute, you're changing the rules. Like, you haven't mentioned
That's
this
so
before.
true.
How long have you been sitting on this?
Or, you know, we've been operating under, you know, this model for 6 months or however long, and all of a sudden you're saying that that's not what we're doing, and that doesn't feel fair.
That almost undoes all your niceness work, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because
it does.
all of a sudden they're like, they've been sitting on this information. They haven't been honest with me. Like, now my thoughts about them may shift.
For sure. And, you know, for a lot of parents who are coming into therapy, and kids as well, but families who are coming into therapy and they're vulnerable and nervous, consistency and like persistence is the key thing.
Yeah.
You know, we want families coming comfortable so that they can be challenged in a way, or maybe help kind of see a blind spot. But if they're constantly on edge, so I think one of the consequences is that you lose that consistency.
Yeah.
If they're constantly on edge, and you know, how might Gabs react to this, or what might Gabs bring up suddenly, that's really tough to go into therapy, like unsure of what it might look like every session.
Yeah. I guess as well, from a more like practical lens as well, withholding conversations can lead to missed opportunity for families in terms of, you know, like we know the evidence around early intervention is really strong. And if we, you know, think a child may benefit from speech therapy, but we are too afraid to kind of bring up that we've noticed delays or that kind of thing, it can mean missed opportunity for engaging in services earlier on.
100%. Especially when it comes to early intervention and things like that. Absolutely. I also think we want to role model having tough conversations about kids to parents.
Yeah.
You know, we want parents to leave sessions being like, gosh, that was tough. And then find themselves in months' time doing the same thing with the teacher who doesn't quite understand them, or, you know, someone else in the community who might not understand their child. We want them to do that. So
they
role
can
modeling
learn to,
is really important.
Absolutely. All right, a little bit of a hot take question, but do you think allied health clinicians are actually trained to be too nice? And is this kind of idea of people pleasing baked into how we're educated and trained?
I want to say yes. But I don't remember any conversations or work around this. For example, at uni, which is where my brain goes with this question. And maybe that's not to say they don't happen, but I don't recall feeling upskilled leaving with those skills. And a lot of what I have learned has been on the job.
Yeah.
And I also think when you're saying, you know, is it baked into the profession? I don't know about you guys, but anytime someone says, what do you do for work? And you say, oh, I'm a pediatric OT, or, you know, peds, whatever, relevant to whoever's listening, I feel like there is that really preconceived kind of idea of like, oh, you must be so nice. And you like people have an idea around
because you work with
like.
children. And
Yep. So it's hard to kind of maybe not take that on sometimes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I also think that, like, and this might be a big call, but I think OT and other allied health attracts a certain type of personality.
Absolutely.
Personality who wants to be, who is friendly, who, you know, wants to be like nice.
Yeah, we
to
care
people.
about people.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think maybe not as much training, but maybe just attracts that personality.
Yep.
But, you know, at uni, I think there's a lot of emphasis on that relationship, that, you know, therapeutic use of self and that aligns, that it can get kind of murky, that's not about being nice. That's actually sometimes the opposite. Like, therapeutic use of self is actually sometimes doing the hard work, the uncomfortable work, instead of just being nice.
Yeah. I think we as a team have done a huge amount of work in recent years around delivering feedback.
Yeah.
More so, I mean, it does translate into our clinical work, but more so even just as teams and that kind of thing. And we have been very fortunate as a team that we're all learning that together. But if I reflect to uni particularly, like, I don't remember learning more about like navigating conflict of interest or disagreements with clients and that kind of thing. So I think, and yes, we are taught about, rapport and being family-centered and that kind of thing, but family-centered is deep, isn't it? It's not just about family-led therapy.
For sure. It's not. It is what the outcome and the goals are what they want.
Yes.
You know, the therapy itself has to be like, or else what are we doing here? Like, or else why did we go and study and practice and learn and upskill and, you know, do professional training if we're not providing our recommendations on what the therapy should look like? But I think outcome-wise and goal-wise, it's okay for parents to feel confident to set those. We just need to step in and kind of go, that might not be the best way to do it.
Yeah. But I do think as a disclaimer, like that is obviously for the most part where we know that the goals are appropriate as well. And that in itself can be a really hard conversation to have.
Absolutely. That's such a good point.
But in the essence of being nice to the child. Kind to the child and nice. Both. But just keeping that in mind when we're talking family-led.
I think that's a fantastic point, because I know I've been there after like a term of therapy working towards a goal that I was maybe too nice when setting, only to find out that this is not it. This is not the goal we should be working towards. And that maybe I needed to dig deeper, challenge the parent a bit more on setting a goal that's, you know, better suited for the young person.
That kind of takes me to my next question, Gabs. Like, how might you, or what signs might indicate that perhaps you're delivering therapy that more so the family wants rather than what you think is like genuinely what they need?
It's not always the case, but like very limited outcomes.
Yep.
You know, when we kind of feel, I love using the term like treading water. Sometimes it feels like you're just treading water in therapy. Usually when I'm treading water, it feels like a sign that I'm avoiding something really hard that we should really have this conversation about.
Yeah.
You know, I think outcomes is a big one.
Anything else from you?
No, I think outcomes kind of encompasses everything that comes to mind for me, whether you're not making progress towards the child's goals, or I know for myself sometimes when this has come up, I've been sitting there going, there's stuff I actually just really need to talk to the parents about. And that's come up over, you know, a goal of I just want you to work with the kids.
Yeah.
But actually being able to have that conversation and go, actually, like, there's a lot of parent stuff in here and I know that's your priority, but this is actually what's going to help you in part to get to the goals as well.
We're very lucky as OTs that we are function driven as well. That can really anchor us a lot of the time, because I do not doubt that most kids would benefit from working on, you know, like emotional reg and that kind of thing in a therapeutic space. But we always need to think about, is the goal that the family are identifying actually impacting participation or function, or is it that they're just like, I think it would be good for them to learn X, Y, Z. And I think that is something that stands out to me when I'm kind of thinking, you know, what are some of those signs or signals as to why a family wants me to work on things? I'm like, okay, tell me where and how that's actually impacting them at the moment, or if they were able to do that, what would that mean? Because if they're kind of like, I don't have an answer for that. And it's like, okay, is this just, you know, are we just working on this just cause?
I also think that sometimes a sign that you're prioritizing, you know, niceness over kindness and like clarity is when parents in session are disengaged.
Yes.
And they're just like, they're like showing up. And that's all, you know, they're kind of doing. Sometimes there's a place for that. And we understand capacity of parents is complicated. But over time, I want to see, you know, and I had a really cool moment the other day where I had a parent just look at me and say, what am I doing here? Like, what are we working towards? And and then they immediately apologized. And I actually had to stop and go, that is my dream thing to hear as an OT. I love to hear it. And that's exactly what I want most of my clients to do. I really want them to,
what's my role?
You know, it's not about just saying great things about me, even though you can say great things about me. I don't hate that.
I welcome that.
I love it when parents are, you know, challenging me and asking me questions. And usually when I'm just being nice for too long, a parent will kind of be like, all right, well then there's nothing really for me to do here. Everything's going absolutely great. Everything's going absolutely fine until it gets to a point where no outcomes have come and what's going on. Usually those are the parents that if you haven't invested time with, those are the families that just kind of leave without ever saying really why or talking to you why. And actually I get that because we didn't put in time either.
Imagine getting some feedback as well. Like it's so nice to get feedback, you know, and we get it intermittently sent to admin or that kind of thing around, you know, like, oh, Katie is so nice. Like, you know, she's really built a lovely relationship with my child versus like, imagine getting something like, you know, I as a caregiver felt like able to be challenged in a really safe way in that session. Like both lovely to receive, but you can really see the difference in, you know, when a caregiver feels like, yep, that person's putting me in a level of discomfort that's safe and gets where we're going as well. Let's talk about sort of reports and documentation because this, again, it's so hard because these things are getting given to often multiple parties as well, not just the person that we've had conversations with. And we're not there to be able to verbally give context to what we're saying or why we're saying. But when we write things down, do you think that allied health clinicians are being truly honest? Do we often soften language, do you think, when we're thinking about recommendations or clinical observations? What do you guys think?
I don't want to speak for other clinicians or professions. I think possibly, yes. I think a way to not do that though, and what I kind of find myself coming back to is like what is objectively true that I'm happy to put my name to. So whether that be following a handwriting assessment and I can like lean objectively on the numbers of this is where this child sits.
The data.
As such, because that is just what is objectively true. Or whether it's, you know, following in observations where we can say this is what I observed. And then I guess when we're going into the recommendations, I guess providing that those are evidence informed and informed by your clinical reasoning, like again, coming back to that being kind of actually what does this child need? Like that is important.
Sometimes it's really hard to do that as well, especially with the NDIS and the nature of it all and the cutting of funds and that kind of thing. But sometimes our standard, you know, fortnightly OT and a report is not enough. And genuinely we might think that that child needs significantly more therapy in different contexts or caregiver education sessions and that kind of thing. But sometimes we might be also like too afraid to ask for that because, I don't know, for whatever reason it may be challenged or that kind of thing. So I think as well, like being able to say, no, like I am the person who knows based on my clinical observations and work with this child, what this child needs.
For sure.
But absolutely it can be shocking to see, even for a caregiver, to be like, you think my child needs that much therapy?
It's pretty tough. I think, and I have a couple of thoughts about this, and I actually love writing reports, but I really believe that a report is not a replacement for a conversation, you know, and that when writing a report, it really, in my opinion, should be everything it needs to say in the least amount of words as possible. It needs to be really quite direct, but it doesn't replace that conversation. And that conversation happens in real time. It can be responsive and it can explore like the needs of the parent in that moment. So you can stop and emphasize goals if needed within that conversation, and it complements your report. But sometimes when we use nice language in a report, one, it blows out the report. Like that 5-page report becomes a 10-page report. And then a 10-page report looks terrifying to a parent, you know, on its own.
And also, are people reading it? Like the people that need to read it?
It becomes less purposeful.
And it really is about the purpose of it. It's like that box it lives in and what's it trying to achieve.
Sorry.
No, you go.
I was just going to say in terms of with our reports, because I know particularly with our NDIS reports.
Yeah.
And I mean, currently we're using the Vineland to help inform that, for example. And when families are getting back those age equivalent scores, for example,
Hard one's a good point.
I know that can be quite confronting for a lot of families when we actually sit down and have that follow-up conversation. And I guess one thing that I know we've got both in our report templates and our emails that go out with those is actually that disclaimer around like, this is not strengths-based, this is not neuroaffirming, this is based on an objective assessment, and we apologise for that.
For sure.
And acknowledging like it's likely going to be difficult to read, and we totally understand that. And if you want to talk about it or ask questions, please do so.
Yeah, but you don't want to jump to nice too quickly, because there are parents who find those reports really affirming.
Yes.
You know, and if you jump to nice too quickly and you're like, it
find the
really only
balance.
means X, Y, and Z, you're one, devaluing the importance of a report, but two, sometimes you're making something bigger than what it actually is to a parent.
Yeah.
Just because you're trying to be nice, you're creating yourself a bit of that problem that then needs to be worked through and solved, and then you're doubling down on nice and they're doubling down, and it's a bit of a mess.
Yeah. If we've got someone listening to this episode and they are thinking, like I want to just show up a little bit more honestly in my next session or shift more towards that kindness, not a dramatic overhaul, just something, small, what might you suggest they try?
I have some like pre-thought scripts that at this point I've gotten really good at using that I find nice kind of little segues to bring up some of those tricky conversations. And where I find I'm often using them is, say, if I've noticed, for example, like some language that a parent might be using or something that they might be doing that I think is counterproductive or potentially even harmful, really just approaching that with curiosity and going in kind of already knowing some of the things that you might want to say and how you might want to say that. So, for example, is something really tangible, like for me it would be organising a parent session and saying, hey, like I've noticed this and I have some thoughts. Can I offer you my perspective?
Yeah, I know we sing her praises on almost every episode, but Jackie Snyder's work has really helped us in that, in terms of learning to be a coach and not just sitting there telling as well. Being open to, they might not want to hear it right now. So how do we deliver that in a sensitive way?
Yeah, and ask permission. Ask permission asking permission, you share the ownership of that conversation.
Yeah.
So by going, hey, I would love to talk to you about, your financial situation. Is that okay? And then letting them choose, and that's really important. You're not secretly, stealthily going like, is that okay? You want to make sure that the parent is in a position of power to say yes or no to that, but then you're sharing that ownership. It's not just you bringing it up, you're talking about it together. Yeah.
Something we often try to live by here at Kid Link is like feeling comfortable with making the invisible visible as well. Because often if we're thinking it, they may be thinking it as well, or there might be tension and you might be like, hey, I'm just going to put it out there in a safe way and see how it's responded to. The next question is, I know, Em, when we were brainstorming, you're like, this is what my brain kind of went to. But when we think about billing and our time as well and valuing the work that we do you think that the way that we kind of bill for our services reflects what we genuinely think our time and work is worth? Gabs, sit on that one.
I'm going to say yes.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that with the caveat of go back and listen to our other episode on the cost of therapy as well, because I think there is so much context behind that.
Yeah.
But to answer this question specifically, I'm thinking about what we bill the families in terms of what we do.
Yeah.
And where my brain goes for that is, for example, additional resources, phone calls and collaborations with care team and school, going over and doing longer sessions.
Yeah.
Like once it kind of starts to become a bit of a habit of that nicety of, just take that 10-minute phone call here or quickly, go over 5-10 minutes there, like that niceness of wanting to give more, because we hopefully everything we're doing, we back and we put our name to, and we're not just doing those things for no reason. But it blows out and it eats into time elsewhere. And then at the end of the day, we're kind of snowballed behind and trying to catch up as well.
Sure.
We at Kid Link use this metaphor of car washing a lot. So for context on this metaphor, we often think about if you needed your car washed and you took it to a car washing service and you're like, yeah, I just want exterior, interior clean, just the general kind of thing. And you didn't know that when you got there, it was a particularly quiet day at this car wash service, and they were like, you know what, we can polish it and we can fit it all in because we've got the time, we've got the manpower. You pick your car up and you're like, whoa, this looks fabulous.
I love this place.
Oh, what a cheap service and really great outcome kind of thing. But then 6 weeks later, you go back and you ask for the exact same thing, and they're just a, regular busy day there. They do what that service is, but it looks less.
Yes.
And you're kind of thrown because you're like, I didn't get what I paid for because you thought that you were entitled to the polish and the wax and all that kind of thing. So when we talk about car washing in therapy, we often talk about, like if your next family's running 20 minutes late and you've been notified, so you're like, oh, I can run over 10 minutes. That's fine for this family. And then the next time they come back and they're like, you're kicking me out on time?
How dare you?
Rude. Or you might have an extra half an hour where you fluff up a report a bit more and put in some more examples and that kind of thing. And then the next time you write a report, they're like, why was the last report 10 pages and this one's only 6 pages?
Yeah.
What am I paying for? So when we think about car washing, like how does that come into when you think of ensuring that what you're doing is transparent for the family and that they understand that your time and your work is of value as well? What do you think of?
Gosh. It happens to me all the time. And like if I dig deep, it's always because I was insecure about a session I ran or a report that I wrote or a moment that didn't go as well as I wanted it to go. And I'm now just overcompensating. But if I don't value my time, like who the heck is going to value my time, And it does happen often. And a practical tip, if you're transitioning if you're like a master car washer like me, and you're transitioning to actually valuing your time as you should, it might start as, telling families that, this is a today thing and that next time it might be different until you get to the point of like, well, this is our usual service.
Yeah. I find for me, I lean a lot on like our policy essentially, and I kind of put it back on that and, give family options and say, for example, I recommend this resource and I think this would be really helpful for you guys. I have to bill my time, so I can either bill it out of our session or we can use our next session to create this together. What do you think?
I find it really hard to navigate when we need to have a phone call or a meeting with another clinician and they bill their time differently to us as well. Because, we might have, for us, we might be like, a 5-minute phone call, I can wear that. But anything beyond that, we actually do schedule that into our diary and bill time. Whereas the psych or the speechy or the teacher or whoever might just do that off their own, time and not bill it. So then it can look confusing to a family when they're like, why is the OT charging 45 minutes to have that phone call, but the psych isn't.
For sure.
And again, perhaps that is the other clinician car washing to a degree, but it makes our work look, like we're just billing for unpolished. We're just billing for whatever we can kind of thing. So it's that fine line of actually like valuing our time and our work and the brain power that we're putting into these things for our clients and helping clients know that it's not just the time that I spend with you that leads to therapeutic outcomes.
And I think that is absolutely very kind because nice is not transparent. Nice is like we said at the start, it's quite superficial. And it's really important that families aren't surprised
Yeah.
that they have choice and control, and that's all kind.
Yeah.
Just saying, yeah, of course I'll do that report. Yeah, any
Yeah.
way you'd like. And then, either not clarifying how much it'll cost at then and not giving the parent a choice, to say no, yes or no. You're ending up charging for something that blew way over because you promised way too much.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you 2 kind of quick fire closing questions or statements. All right. So I want you to finish this sentence, but it's not really a finish the sentence. It's a question now that I read it out. What is something? What is something that you are most afraid to say out loud?
Oh boy. Like at work?
Yeah.
I think acknowledging when, I didn't respond in a way I should have with a young person, potentially I responded in a way that was, too weak or even bordering, like I would never be mean to a kid, but I might decide on something that isn't at their benefit.
Yeah.
And then turning to the parent and telling them this and role modeling that is probably really, really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. In the sense of being like too nice, I have to be really conscious of when families arrive late because we know life happens and it's like we get it. Sometimes I'm a little bit late to work.
Yeah.
Don't tell Jackie. But when they arrive, they're like, oh, we're so sorry. We're late. We're 20 minutes late or whatever. As a once off here and there, like we get it. But when it's like a consistent pattern and actually saying to the families of like, I understand what's going on for you. How can I work with you so that this doesn't continue to happen? Because then I guess, and I know this was meant to be quick fire.
That's fine.
But in the vein of being kind, I'll just keep talking and talking and talking.
No full stop.
But coming back to the nature of being kind, like that's when I tend to see like we've set these ambitious goals for the term thinking we've got 50 minutes over 5 sessions.
Late,
If we've only got half of that time, it's like, well,
it's half your session.
It's not
for
gonna
sure.
happen.
And in the same vein, homework. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah.
How many times I've looked at a family and I'm like, that's okay.
Yeah.
What homework?
I'm just giving it for fun.
Yeah.
And we tell families how important homework is, and doing that is not kind. It's confusing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we've spoken about like for anyone who's listening who's thinking, damn, I do this too.
Yep.
I guess for me personally, like where that's become something as a bit of a skill I'm working on is hearing that from the families and going, okay, like thank you for telling me.
Yeah.
Or, thank you for acknowledging that you're late, I guess, or whatever it is that's gone on. But then going, okay, how can I work with you
how can I help
to make this better? Maybe the homework I've actually set was too open-ended or airy-fairy or whatever it was. Instead of this just becoming a habit, like let's actually make it better together.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, last one. What is something that you say or do that you think you could retire as a clinician?
I kind of said it before.
Yeah.
But I think
they're similar. Sorry.
I think, but I would probably generalize it to most things. That if I'm repeatedly saying like that's okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say that is my
yeah, that's okay.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. It gets more
going up an octave every time
per session. If I it's actually not okay after a certain amount of time. It's not okay for our therapy.
Yeah.
If anything, it's most okay for me.
Yes.
But it's not okay for the family and it's not okay for the young person. So it's immediately not okay for us.
Yeah.
It's important for to sit in it for a second and be like, what's going on then?
Yeah.
I think retiring that's okay is really, it would be really great.
Anything else from you, Em?
I don't have anything to add on that. And I think that
Beautiful.
sums up really
That's okay.
nicely. That's
okay. That's okay. All right, on that, thank you, Em. Thank you, Gabs. I think it's been a really valuable, no pun intended there, valuable conversation.
Wow.
Keep being kind, keep being nice, but kindness is key here.
Yeah,
for
and
us.
kindness to ourselves as clinicians
Absolutely.
and our boundaries as
And
well.
nice to me too.
Yeah.
Nice to
Nice.
me,
Yeah.
Gabs.
And nice to Gabs.
All right. Hope to see you both back here soon. Thanks.
Thanks, Kate.
Bye.
Bye.